warehouse worker Angelique Van Arsdale is suing her sister, warehouse worker Lucinda Haskins, for selling her late mother's jazzy wheel. Lucinda is countersuing for damages to her home and the cost to fumigate.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 231 on the calendar in the matter of Van Arsdale versus Haskin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
How are you related to the defendant?
She's my sister.
Your mother passed away in February this year. According to you, you are the rightful owner of your mother's jazzy wheel, which is a vehicle used to get your mother around because she evidently had trouble walking. That jazzy wheel ended up at your sister's house. Your sister sold it, and you want the value. Your sister says that it wasn't yours. She doesn't tell me what she, in fact, did with it. She's got a counterclaim for some nonsense that I'll get to in a minute. Why do you think this jazzy wheel that belonged to your mother was yours?
Because I cared for my mother. My mother left it. She left everything to me.
Show me the will.
Excuse me.
Just a minute.
Does my niece have to be in here?
Yes, she's a witness.
Why is that a problem?
Because that's my niece, and she's always talking bad about me to her. She told me that I could never see the kids again.
How old are you?
13.
You want to be here?
Yes.
Or would you like to be outside?
I'd like to be here.
Okay, stay.
Okay.
Did you admit this will to probate?
No.
I certainly wouldn't admit this will to probate. You wrote this out, is that right?
No, my sister-in-law did.
Sister-in-law?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly your mother didn't write it out.
No, she was there. No, my mom, she was in very poor health. She couldn't write anything.
Look, I wouldn't admit this in evidence. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
In between the two pages that you handed me is a blank piece of paper. What we call the attestation page, which is where your mother allegedly signed it and was witnessed. There's no nexus to this piece of paper. Do you understand that? Which means your mother didn't know what in the world she was signing when she signed this thing.
Exactly.
I mean, she could have signed something that gave somebody a, power of attorney, as far as she's concerned. So this is nonsense.
Okay.
So there is nothing that indicates that the jazzy wheel belonged to you. By the way, did you take your mother's furniture?
Yes.
Did you take your mother's jewelry?
Yes.
Did you take your mother's clothes?
Yes.
Did you take your mother's pictures?
Yes. I cared for, I'm not really suing for the jazzy wheel. It's just the principle of the matter that Lucinda was never around for my mother. She, and then when my mom died, all of a sudden she came into the picture and just made everybody, very unhappy, unpleasant. She did a lot of terrible things to us. She has a very bad drug habit, and see, I wasn't going to sue her at all. Prior to this, on June 28th, she was messed up and she smashed my car. And she begged me not to call the police and not to call, make a police report because she would lose her license, she would lose her job, and she would go to jail.
So she smashed up your car.
She smashed up my car, and then when I contacted her, to go over and get my things, I asked, I said,
why were your things at her house?
Because I stayed with her while, after my mom died, I lost my home, and so I stayed with her for 26 days.
What do you mean you lost your home? How come you lost your home when your mom died?
Because I could no longer, the burden of all the finances and everything, I couldn't pay, it was either bury my mom or pay my rent, and I buried my mom.
Baloney. Wait just a second. That's baloney.
Yeah.
Shh. I haven't gotten to you yet. Just try to calm yourself. Don't make a bad situation worse. You didn't lose your house because you buried
There was
your mother.
other reasons.
All right, so then let's, what do you think, I'm stupid? I'm not stupid. You didn't lose your house because you buried your mother, if you buried your mother at all. Okay, and you moved into your sister's house because according to you, you spent 26 days in your sister's house. There's also very little question in my mind that your sister does have some sort of a substance abuse problem. She has a substance abuse problem. That comes from my years in the family court, right?
Yes.
Okay, good girl. Tell the truth.
I am telling the truth.
I know. But you stayed there with her for 26 days. And when you went there, you brought, according to you, you brought the jazzy wheel there. When you left, she said, leave it here. Leave all the stuff here, or you can leave it in the garage. And either she refuses to give it to you now, or she sold it. Did you sell it, or do you have it?
I sold it.
How much did you sell it for?
$800.
Good. Do you have your mother's jewelry?
Yes.
Did you sell any of it?
Oh, no.
You kept it all?
Yes.
What about her furniture?
My brother has the furniture.
You gave your brother the furniture?
Yes.
As a gift to him, or is your brother holding on to it for
And
you?
a
Are you
truck.
the brother? You have the furniture?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you happy with it?
Yes,
And a
ma'am.
truck.
Shh, shh, shh. Just a second. Just a second. So the furniture you have, the jewelry you have. Great. She has the jazzy wheel. You have a counterclaim.
Okay.
Shh. Just a second. Just a second.
Okay.
Stop for a second. But for the fact that she brought this lawsuit against you for the jazzy wheel,
Yes,
did you
ma'am.
have any intention of suing her?
Yes, because I took her in. She lost her house because of paraphernalia, drugs, pornography that me and my brother both took off of the wall. Okay?
You're not following what I'm saying to you.
I wasn't going to let my sister out on the streets.
That's not what I said.
Okay?
You weren't planning on suing her until she
No.
sued you.
No, I wasn't.
Right.
No,
Miss
I wasn't.
Haskin,
No.
listen to me.
I wasn't.
Right. Forget about it. Your sister got something when your mother died. Your brother got something when your mother died.
All I asked-
You got something when your mother died. That's it. Goodbye.
Why does that excuse? You may step out.
All I was trying to do was be a big sister.
She's never been a good sister.
And I didn't think she would stoop this low and sending me to court.
She was the bad seed. She's always been the bad seed.
All I wanted from my mother was her picture and a Jesus.
You'll never
head.
have them.
Okay?
Oh, I don't think it was fair because my sister was not a part of my mother's life.
It's all right. I got my mother's
You'll never.
pictures.
You are not my sister.
You aren't mine either.
She's been doing this since she was 13 years old.
This is what I get for trying to be a good person.
I screamed for him to get off my son's leg, and he just looked at me.
When I did hear him, I did stop. That's why I didn't run over the child.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Shrek versus Hagar. Step forward, please.
26-year-old employment specialist Catherine Schreck is suing her former lover, railroad conductor Brian Hager, for an unpaid loan to get back on his feet.
Miss Schreck, the defendant used to be your boyfriend. According to you, you made a loan to him in the amount of $1,000. Mr. Hager says that you did, in fact, give him $1,000. It was just that, a gift, not a loan. When was this $1,000 check, and it was a check, is that right,
Yes, Your Honor.
given to Mr. Hager?
The check was written on January 22nd, 2002, and it was cashed on January 24th, 2002.
Tell me the circumstances of the check, Miss Schreck.
He
That's
was
right,
unemployed
just a
at the
second. Tell
time.
me of the circumstances of the check,
The check.
Miss Schreck.
Mr. Hager was unemployed at the time, and he was also experiencing other financial hardships. And
How long had you been dating him at the time?
Approximately 3 weeks. He had disclosed that his ex-girlfriend was possibly pregnant and that he was the father. At that point, I had determined that I did not want to further the relationship beyond a friendship. However, I felt bad for him at the situation that he was in at the time. He had expressed that he was waiting for his tax return to come in.
Just a second. So if his ex-girlfriend thought she was pregnant, what did that have to do with money?
He didn't need money for that. It was just added stress in his life.
Who cares?
I cared. He was my friend at the time. I felt bad
What were
for
you
him.
doing?
I'm a facilitator for San Bernardino Jobs and Employment Services Department. I teach welfare recipients how to get jobs.
Good. Oh, you should have taught him. What kind of work were you doing at the railroad, sir?
I'm a conductor.
And you were let go?
No, ma'am. I was just laid off temporarily due to a slowdown.
For how long?
6 months.
And what did you do during that 6-month period?
Things are hard everywhere, so I just I collected railroad unemployment, which
How
was-
much?
It's $1,000 a month.
And where were you living?
I own a home.
And you have a mortgage?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the mortgage?
Mortgage was $1,700.
So you were really short. Where'd you get the other money from? Did you have savings?
Yes, ma'am. I had money saved up in my bank account.
Now, you tell her that you're having some financial difficulties. And so what did you do?
So I offered to give him a loan.
What did you say to him? What did he say to you?
I said, my father just gave me $1,000 for Christmas. I just received my student financial aid. I don't need it at the time, but I will need it in several months. He said that he was expecting his tax return, and as soon as he got that, he would pay me back.
Okay,
So
where
in the
were you?
span of 2 months.
Where were you when you had this conversation with him?
At his home.
Remember what date it was? Was it the 22nd of January?
Yes, it was.
That's not true, Your Honor. When she had given me the check,
Tell me about why you would tell this lady that you're having any financial trouble anyway.
Well, she could just tell that I was stressed. We were upstairs in my room, we were just talking, watching TV, and she just, she said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Well, I'm stressed out right now because, I'm having some financial problems with being laid off." She said, "Well, I got plenty of money. Why don't you just let me help you out?" And I said, No, it'll be okay. I'm going to be going back to work." We talked about it for a little bit longer, and once again I said, "No, it'll be all right." And I went downstairs, got a drink of water. I was coming back upstairs. She met me halfway. She said, "I'm going to go home. I have to go to work in the morning." I left you a surprise upstairs in your room. And I went back upstairs to my room, and there was a check for $1,000.
So what'd you do?
I called her cell phone and said, "Why'd you leave me this money?" She said, "Because I care about you, and I want to see you be okay." She said, "Just consider it a gift."
I don't know if she said that. Listen to me. Shh. Are you her mother? You hear the story that he just told? That's more real than what she told me. So you can laugh all you like. That's pretty much what happened, except just consider it a gift. That she didn't say. Don't go overboard, Mr. Hager. When you're ahead of the game, don't stretch the truth. The truth was pretty good for a while. Probably was a gift. I don't believe that you asked her for a loan, that there was a repayment schedule. I don't believe any of that. You have to understand that, Ms. Schreck. But now I have a question for you, because I was interested. When I wanted to hear what you had to say, Mr. Hager, I believe you, that that's how it came about.
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's what she would do. And she said, I cared about him being stressed. That's what girls do when they're in like. But then she was no longer in like with you, and you were no longer in like with her, and then we got the $1,000 that you've already spent, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But you look like a sort of responsible young man. How old are you?
29.
And you own your own home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it didn't work out with her. So wouldn't a responsible man of 29 years old, a homeowner, you own your own car, I'm sure you have a bank account, you told me you lived off savings,
Yes, ma'am.
right? But then you went back to work. Why didn't you start giving her back this money?
She had told me it was a gift.
Mr. Hager, she's not your mother, is she?
No, ma'am.
She's not a sister. She's not even your best friend, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So then what a moral person does is say, you helped me out, I needed it, we're not together, I want to start paying you back this $1,000, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't that what a moral person does?
Yes, ma'am.
So you do want to be a moral person, don't you, Mr. Hager?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She did meet another guy, and that's when it ended our relationship. And that's when she wanted the $1,000 back.
That man did not come into my life until months after Brian and I had stopped speaking.
She told me it was a gift. I feel I shouldn't have to pay the money back.
Lesson learned, never loan money to losers.
Contractor Stephen Bruno is suing his ex-fiancée, executive assistant Kathy Ross, for an unpaid loan for a truck and for the cost of an outside deck. Kathy is countersuing for the return of belongings, for medical bills resulting from an accident, and for the cost to bring the unfinished deck up to code.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 359 on the calendar in the matter of Bruno versus Ross. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
You used to be in love, you're not in love anymore. So now we're here, is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So, Mr. Bruno, you say that Miss Ross, who used to be your love, owes you for two things. First, a loan for materials that you purchased to do a deck in her house.
Right.
Deck was falling apart. You're in that business. You said, I'll do a deck. According to you, you said, you pay for the materials, I'll do the labor as a labor of love. And the second loan is for a truck, $2,500, and you say that both of these things, repayment was promised by Miss Ross for both of these things. Miss Ross says, baloney. Miss Ross has some counterclaims. She was at your house one day, according to her, and she fell down a flight of stairs. You were still dating after that.
Yes.
Is that right? But you decided you might as well sue him for that. Now.
Well,
Right.
my feeling was that it was ridiculous that it got to this point anyway. So if we were going to,
If we were going
if he
to
was
dredge
going-
up old trash, we might as well get all the old trash
Exactly.
up. That's what we are. We are receptacles for trashy lawsuits. Not. Because if you fell down the flight of stairs at his house and you hurt yourself, you should have proceeded against his homeowners at the time. If you chose not to do that, don't bother me with it. The next thing that you're suing him for on the counterclaim, because I'm whittling down this lawsuit. You're going to get to whittling down yours in a second.
No problem.
Oh, I'm glad you feel that way. The next thing that you're suing him for is you say that he started work on this deck of yours and he left it halfway and you want him to pay to have it finished.
Correct.
Unlikely, but a possibility. Third thing is you say he has some property of yours. Skis, what else?
He has all of my ski equipment.
Do you have her ski equipment?
No, I don't.
Where is it?
To my knowledge, it's in her basement.
You don't have it?
No, I have my daughters and my own.
He doesn't have it. Next.
He has a phone of mine, cordless
What kind of phone?
Cordless phone.
How did he get a cordless phone of yours?
One of his phones was not working properly, and he was, well, we were going to get married, and he was talking about going and getting another phone, and I said, well, let's just put that in your basement. That's
great, perfect. So you gave him a phone. So what else?
A cookbook and some kitchen utensils.
How did he get those?
I was over at his house cooking a lot, and they were left. There were items that I had not taken back home.
That you left there? Items that you left there?
Right. I never thought it would get to this.
It didn't. So with the exception of, I'll let you tell me the story about the deck. Forget about everything else. Okay, Mr. Bruno, tell me about the deck, the materials that you purchased, sir. Tell me where you were with her when you decided that you were going to fix this deck.
I was on my phone. We were discussing it.
Oh, tell me what the discussion was.
It was Mother's Day a couple days before, and she has some puppies that were getting ready to be sold, and she was worried about the safety of people coming to view the deck, or view the puppies, and didn't want them walking on the deck, so she was trying to figure out another route for them to go. And as a Mother's Day gift, I said, well, I'd take care of the deck so that she could have it sold, or not sold, but sell the puppies without worrying about people walking on it.
Great.
Just reimburse me when the puppies are sold, or if you refinance your house. I would charge you no labor. That was my Mother's Day gift. Plus, I took her to dinner.
All right, now let me hear what the phone call was like, Ms. Ross.
He called me the morning of Mother's Day, and he said, I've decided what I want to do for you for Mother's Day. He said, I want to rebuild your deck. And I'm like, well, that's not something that I can afford to do at this point. Well, you know, this is something I want to do for you. You never let me do anything for you. I'm concerned about your safety on the deck. You're going to have people coming over to look at the puppies. Okay. He says, okay, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to pick up the materials, and I'll be over.
Now tell me about the truck.
Oh, I had been looking for a truck. I knew that once I sold the litter of puppies, that I would have the down payment for the truck. And I had been looking at different trucks, and he's saying, why don't you get that when you like it? And I'm like, no, because I don't have my down payment yet. So I think one truck slipped away from me twice at two different locations. I went and I looked at another truck. He came with me. I liked the truck. He's like, you should just get the truck. I'll just give you the money. He said, your birthday's coming up in September. And
when were the puppies sold?
The last puppy wasn't sold until the first week in August.
What kind of puppies were they?
Labrador Retrievers.
How much did you get for the litter?
They sold for different amounts. The highest puppy being sold for $425. The majority of them were sold for $300.
How many puppies were there in the litter?
There ended up being 8.
So there's your $2,500, right? So you'd have had the money for your down payment.
Correct.
When did the two of you break up?
A day before Father's Day.
In June?
Yes, the 15th.
Okay, and when did you give her the $2,500?
May 25th.
So you give him back his $2,500, Miss Ross, because that's the right thing to do. So,
Your Honor.
Yeah.
I have a police report of when he came over to my house demanding back the engagement ring and all of this money that I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll give you the money. He comes in my house, he starts throwing things, so I had to call the police.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That's an exceptionally high bid if she's just going to put it up to code, which in that case would be a handrail.
Then you should have finished it.
I would have loved to.
But you didn't.
And later today,
He only used electrical tape and wired 3 wires together, and it caught on fire.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Yes, it is, Your Honor. It's true.
That is not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephen Bruno says ex-fiancée Kathy Ross owes for a truck loan and for the cost to build an outside deck. Kathy says They were both presents.
Did you give him back his ring?
Yes.
Why did he have to come over to your house for the ring?
I have no idea why it even got to that in the first place.
Well, why don't you tell me, sir?
She wouldn't bring it back over, and when I did show up, she'd tell me, get the hell off her property, or what the hell was I doing there? And I told her I wanted the ring back and the money that I'd loaned her, and then I was out of there. And I didn't throw things, Your Honor. I threw a cell phone, which was mine, and that was all I threw.
All right, you lost your temper. That's not the right thing to do.
No, ma'am,
But
it
he gets his $2,500 back. Let me see pictures of the deck. Okay. Sort of left this job in the middle, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I loaned her the money for the truck, and I didn't have the money to finish the deck.
So what you're saying to me is you loaned her the money for the truck, and because you loaned her the money for the truck, you didn't have enough money for the materials for the rest of the deck.
In part.
You understand where I'm going, Mr. Bruno. That's what the problem is. You're trying to anticipate where I'm going. You took a house that looked okay. Now, it may not have been okay, but it looked okay.
It was an unsafe deck.
And it doesn't look okay now.
It's better than what it was, ma'am.
No, it wasn't. No.
Yes.
No.
People were
This is before.
They stepped through that deck.
And this is after. There's no railing. There's no guard railing.
No
Is that
railing.
right?
That's right.
And there's not even a full floor.
Right.
I got it. Can I see the cheapest estimate that you got to finish this deck? I think you say in your counterclaim that it was $1,800. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, this estimate is $1,200 to $1,400.
Right, and there's a big, the other one is for $3,200, and I don't know why the difference in the two is
I
so
don't know
large.
either.
And that's not to restore the deck back to the condition it was in. That's just to put up a hand railing and stairs from
It says
the porch.
to bring the deck up to code.
Yes, ma'am, but it's
Okay.
not, I would not be able to use that deck the same way that I was using the other deck. I have no way to get from one part of my yard to the other.
I'm going to take the highest of this estimate, which is $1,200 to $1,400, because I think you're responsible for at least giving her some semblance of a deck back in her house.
Well,
You can't
if I-
just walk away from a gift. You started this, you have to finish it. And if you're not going to go to her house, and I can understand and finish it, somebody's going to have to. So she owes you $2,500 for the truck. From that, I'm deducting $1,400 for the deck. She owes you $1,100 for the truck.
Your Honor, in regards to that, that's an exceptionally high bid if she's just going to put it up to code, which in that case would be a handrail at $2 a foot.
And you should have finished it,
I would have loved to.
but you didn't. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100, which is the difference between fixing the deck and the $2,500 she owes you for the truck. That's all.
I desire excuse. You may step out.
She had conflicts with my family and didn't want to deal with it.
I didn't want to be like the rest of the in-laws and feel like I was shoved to the outside of that main core.
I think it was a little unfair because I know she wasn't telling the truth. We had an agreement prior to all this, but judge ruling is judge ruling.
She's got nude pictures of herself laying all over Houston.
If he wouldn't have come in here and tried to lie, I'm sure things could have been worked out.
She's trying to act like a good girl. We got pictures right here showing she was a bad girl, butt naked and stuff.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robert versus Josephowski, step forward, please.
Student Kathy Robert is suing her former friend, freelance event coordinator Marion Josephowski, for the value of her pets. Marion is countersuing for harassment and lost wages.
Ms. Robert, the defendant was a friend of yours, according to you, and agreed to do some pet sitting for you.
That's correct.
And according to you, she sold your pets to a local pet store. You want to be compensated for the pets. The defendant says that she did, in fact, agree to watch your animals for you for a day. It ended up being 3 weeks. She couldn't keep them anymore. She is counterclaiming alleging harassment. So why don't you tell me when and under what circumstances she agreed to do this pet sitting for you?
She agreed originally to do it for me on July 8th. I came over and left my animals on July 16th. It was supposed to be...
Okay. What kind of animals were they?
I had 3 birds, 1 bunny, and a small fish aquarium.
3 birds, 1 rabbit, and 1 fish tank?
Small aquarium, yes.
Well, what was in the aquarium?
Some guppies.
Is this just a bowl?
Mm-hmm, a bowl.
So you're talking about a fish bowl, hardly an aquarium.
No.
3 birds, what kind of birds?
A plumhead parakeet and a white-faced cockatiel and a albino parakeet.
Why did you tell her you needed her to watch the animals for you?
I was moving out and my apartment wasn't ready yet, and I couldn't put the animals where I was going to be staying, So she agreed to take care of them, and I gave her $50 to do that.
Did she give you $50?
No, ma'am. She gave me $25, a check which she asked me not to cash for several days, which I complied with.
Does that sound right to you?
No, because she had a closed bank account and I couldn't give her a check, so I gave her cash on different times.
That's not true.
What do you mean you gave her cash at different times?
I gave her $25 initially, and then whenever I would come over to visit, I'd give her $10.
All right, so initially you did give her $25.
Initially.
Okay. Now, you brought the animals over on the 16th?
Correct.
Then what happened?
And then I came over to visit once a week. She knew that she would be watching the birds for about 3.5 weeks.
Don't tell me what you knew. Did she come over once a week?
About that.
Fine. How many weeks did you visit?
3.
When did you tell her you wanted the animals back?
I had asked her if she could watch them till about August 15th, but she said that she needed me to come pick them up about August 8th. So I said, okay. And I tried to call her August 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Never got a phone call back from her at all.
Well, when was the last time you had visited your animals?
I believe it was July 31st, and I went over on July 31st, and my bunny wasn't there. She said that the bunny was being cared for by her ex-husband, which we later found out was a lie. They were over at her little girl's friend's house, and we went there approximately 6 weeks later and picked it up from the little girl's friend's house.
Okay, so the bunny you got back?
The bunny I got back, and I bought back one bird from
Just a minute, bunny you now have?
The bunny I have.
What happened with the birds? Because it's the birds that we're talking about.
Well, Your Honor, she did ask me to watch them, but it was only for, quote, a few days at the most.
Okay, but she came to visit. According to what you just testified to, she would come once a week. So you knew it was more than one day, because that's what you say in your answer.
Initially, it was 1 to 3 days.
Okay, but it turned out to be more than that.
Correct.
And you knew it was more than that because she came to visit once a week, according to you.
Right.
You said that. So why did you give away her animals?
Because I told her, each time she came to visit me, I told her that she needed to pick them up by the 12th. By the 12th of August, I needed them gone because my landlord did not allow me to have pets. And she said, if I can't have...
Would you look at me?
If I can't have a place for them to stay, then can you find someone to watch them for me? And so I found someone else to take care of them, and they, in turn, got rid of the birds. I did not. I just did what she asked me to do.
Who did you give the birds to?
A friend.
Give me the friend's name.
Jeff is his name.
And you gave Jeff the birds when?
On the 14th, when I was moving out. After I waited for her to come, and she did not because my door was ajar open all day because I was fixing the door so that I could move out and get my deposit
Your
back.
Honor, I was there on the 15th, and she told me that the birds were at her mother's house, and she gave me a fake phone number. I was there the day after she's saying that.
She told you that the birds were at her mother's house?
Yep.
Did you ever find out what happened to the birds?
I found one of them in a pet store, and I have no idea what happened to the plumhead. I have no idea.
How did you find one of the birds in a pet store?
I heard them arguing in the background. I called up once, and she said, well, I really don't have your birds. Jeff really has them. And she started arguing with Jeff in the background, and he goes, well, I can't get them back. I sold them to Birdland.
All right, you want to tell me about your counterclaim?
Yes, ma'am. Kathy called everyone I know, telling them that if they ever wanted to see me alive again, that they should tell me to give her birds back. And she also threatened my family. She told me, just give me your laptop and I will leave you and your family alone. She told my daughter that she was going to come to her school if I didn't give her anything in return for her birds being sold, which she knew that I did not sell.
That's not true.
And threatening me, and she made me lose a babysitting job I had because I had a 3-year-old there, and she was screaming at my face. She was right here telling me she was going to trash my car and she wasn't going to leave us alone. And
you had no right to give anybody her animals. This isn't the situation where she left these animals with you, totally unattended. She never came back. I'm speaking. The $25 that she gave you more than covered any food for 3 birds and a rabbit for 3 weeks. So there's no question that you didn't have any out-of-pocket expenses, even if she didn't give you any more money. I mean, bird seed and rabbit food, $25 worth goes a very, very long way. So what you had to do was just return them to her and get them out of your house.
But she asked me, Your Honor.
You chose not to do that. You chose to give them to somebody who was unreliable. No. That's boyfriend Jeff.
Excuse me, Your
And
Honor.
if Jeff, no, now you listen to me. And if Jeff sold them, You are responsible. You agreed to take care of her pets, and you chose not to do that.
Until a certain time, Your Honor.
No,
she
you chose not to do that.
She agreed to pick them up on the 12th, Your Honor.
And you chose a path that was wrong, because you had another path that you could have chosen, which was to take the animals, 3 birds, because you already didn't have the rabbit, and take them to where she was living and say,
I did not know
here
where
they
she was
are,
living.
then pick up the phone and call her.
I knew her for 3 weeks before all this happened. She just starts dumping her stuff and all of her pets on me, and I was just trying to help her.
She didn't dump anything on you, madam. According to you, she would come by once a week to visit them. You told me that. That's what you told me for 3 weeks.
And
that's what you told me. So this wasn't just here, take my animals and I'll come and get them when I want to. She gave them to you. She did the responsible thing. She gave them to you with money. Then she came once a week to see them and probably gave you an extra couple of bucks too, although you don't acknowledge that.
However,
even if she didn't, she gave you enough to take care of them. You had a responsibility to do the right thing. You did not. She's going to get what she asks for, which is $560. And as far as your counterclaim is concerned, you didn't do the right thing. You don't get a penny for harassment. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She is lying about many things, including the money, including the dates, everything.
I wish I could have found out what happened to my birds. In actuality, I still want the plumhead back, but I guess that's not going to happen.
She thought she could pull this out of her hat and just get money from me.
I never threatened her children. Never.
Grocery clerk Mary Beth Rodriguez is suing her cousin, iron worker Stacy Buttram, for unpaid rent, utility bills, and the return of videotapes. Stacy is countersuing, claiming Mary Beth assaulted her 12-year-old daughter, Amanda Bishop.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 387 on the calendar in the matter of Rodriguez versus Buttram. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
I don't want anybody to make me shout today because I have a sore throat. Okay?
Yes.
Miss Rodriguez, the defendant is your cousin.
Yes, ma'am, she is.
According to your complaint, there was a time she moved into your apartment, took over a lease of a roommate of yours. She moved out in rather unpleasant circumstances because there was some altercation involving a daughter of hers.
Yes.
And you.
Yes.
You claim that when she moved out, she owed you for rent. She owes you utilities, according to you?
Yes, ma'am, she does.
For 2 months?
She owes June's rent, which was a bad check. She owes September's rent that she did never paid.
How much was the rent?
The rent was $1,000. She paid $500. I paid $500.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about this bounce check in June, because up until June you had paid the rent.
I bounced a check with the landlord in June, and he never got back to me until after I'd moved out that it had bounced. I knew it had bounced, but I was waiting for him to make what he wanted to be done with it.
So that you owe her the money for June?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Good. See, you make things easy. I'm so happy that you're not aggravating me. $500 you owe. Now, what about September's rent? When did you move out in September?
I moved out the first week in September.
Is that right?
She moved out August 29th at approximately 12 o'clock at night.
And you want her to pay September's rent?
Yes.
Why?
Because on the lease that she has signed, it says that she was there until October the 1st of 2002.
Well, that's an interesting issue, because there was an incident involving her daughter.
Right.
Because she has a counterclaim for assaulting her daughter.
Right.
So I want you to tell me what happened, your version of what happened the end of August.
At the end of August, her daughter was very out of control. She was not taking responsibilities in the house. I was picking up after I was telling her that she had to flush the toilet, pick up her clothes, pick up after herself. Her daughter was smoking in the house at 12 years old. I told her mom and I told her daughter, I do not allow this, and I will not allow this. So Amanda said she was getting ready and she was all dressed in black. She had black lipstick on, black mascara. I said, you look like a devil's child. So I grabbed her by the back of the neck. Come here, Chantal. I grabbed Amanda by the back of the neck just like this. I said, you will not be in this house unless there's an adult in here. I pushed her out and I went to work. I shut the door behind me, and that's what I had done.
And that's when you left. Miss Rodriguez, you cannot expect the defendant to stay in your home when you've thrown her daughter out of your home. Do you understand? Her daughter's 12 years old.
I didn't throw her out. I told her that she was not allowed in there because she was smoking in the house because my house would have burnt down.
Is there anything in your lease that says that she can't smoke?
Yes, it does.
Let me see. Okay. Did anyone else smoke in the house other than her daughter?
Stacy smoked, but she smoked outside of the house, so no.
Now, go ahead.
On this piece of paper right here, when we moved out, you give 30-day notice, they give you a letter. Well, in the letter where her daughter Amanda was in the small bedroom, there is smoke damage to the windowsill in the house and on the floor in the bedroom.
But that's not why you threw her out on that day at the end of August. You threw her out because she was wearing black lipstick, a black
No,
hair.
I threw her out because she got very verbally with me, and she wasn't...
She's not responsible for September's rent, madam. You threw her daughter out of the house. She can't be expected to remain in the house while her daughter's out of the house. The only other thing we have to address are the utility bills. What was your arrangement with her with regard to
The
utilities?
utilities were to pay half of everything.
Okay, what about the utility bills?
I paid utilities up until, I think it was May, when we both bought cars. And we decided to get insurance together because it would be cheaper. And they were going to take it directly out of my checking account because Mary Beth did not have a checking account.
Mary Beth, pay attention, don't play with your papers. She's telling me why she didn't pay the utilities after May.
When they were supposed to take $320 out of my account for our insurance, and they ended up taking $520 out. She said, just pay it, and I will take it out of your payment for the utilities.
Does that sound familiar?
I told her for May's, not to worry about May's, that I would pay May's utilities, and I did. Stacy only paid me $200. She owes me $718. This is the cable bill, the public service bill, the phone bill, and
Does
the
that
water
include
bill.
September?
Yes.
Well, take September off.
Okay.
Take May off.
Okay.
Right?
$534.37.
How much were the utilities a month, madam?
Utilities ran between $30 to $50 for the water bill, $70 to $100 for the phone bill, and between $100 to $50
So
for
is what you're
service.
doing when you come up with $534 taking the high end or the low end?
The high end.
Okay. Now I want you to tell me about your counterclaim.
Well, when she threw my daughter out of the house, she physically threw out of the house. I have a picture of the marks that she left on my daughter.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Amanda Bishop,
How old are you, Amanda?
12, gonna be 13 in 7 days.
Tell me how you do in school, Amanda.
Lately, I've been getting lower grades because I haven't been working that hard.
Miss Beltram, are you satisfied with your daughter's performance?
She's a little lazy at school lately, but for the most part...
What about her friends, Miss Beltram?
She has no friends.
Really? Why not?
Yeah. She's just at that stage in her life where she's exploring, you know, she's become a teenager and she's...
What about her smoking, Miss Beltram?
She was smoking in the house, and when I found out she was smoking in the house, I dealt with it.
What about smoking at all when she's 12 years old?
Well, I don't like her to smoke, but I'm not with her 24 hours a day. There's no way I can completely stop her.
Is this your only child?
No, I have a 22-month-old baby, too.
Other than smoking, do you take anything else, Amanda? Ever experiment with any drugs, Amanda? What kind of friends do you have?
I used to have a friend named Emily. She had a mohawk, and Mary Beth didn't like her. I don't have her anymore. I have Brittany, and that's about it.
You feel as if, Amanda, that you could benefit with some counseling?
Maybe.
Did you ever talk to your mother about that?
We went to counseling. It was for me and her because we were not getting along well, but we got that taken care of. We have...
Yeah, but now you're not doing so well.
I'm working on it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Her daughter had ran away. Stacy literally had taken her daughter and literally threw this little girl on the floor.
And later today,
Maybe he's not as smart as all your other friends. When he pays $220 for 4 tickets, he thinks that he's going to at least get to hear a song, right? And he got to hear nothing.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mary Beth Rodriguez says her cousin, Stacy Buttram, owes for rent, utility bills, and for the return of her daughter's videos. Stacy says Mary Beth physically threw her daughter out of the house.
I'm talking about the other little things that may be bothering you. Who are you working that out with?
My grandma. I talk to my grandma a lot. We're really close.
She live close by?
Mm-hmm. In walking distance.
So you go over there and talk to her?
Almost every day.
Good. That's a good anchor. You help your mom take care of the baby?
Mm-hmm. Change diapers, baby baths, that kind of stuff.
Your mom says no.
Sometimes, not 24/7.
Your mom approve of the way you dress?
I don't dress.
It's only clothes. She's a teenager. She's going to go through this stage. It's the stage.
Wasn't it? No, she's not a teenager.
Well, she'll be
She's not a
teenager.
teenager. She's 12. 12 is not a teenager.
She'll be a teenager in 7 days.
But 6 months ago, she was 12.
Yeah, well, she's just going through a stage.
I want to tell you something, Miss Beltram. It's easy to be a friend to your kids and much harder to be a parent.
Well, I try to be both.
If you have to make a choice, choose parent, because you can have a lot of friends, but somebody has to give her the right direction. Somebody has to say, these are the rules. While you live under my roof, I own the air that you breathe.
That's exactly
You
what I
will
tell her
do the
too.
following. This is what you will do. When you get old enough and you can live on your own, you can go and do that, and then you will own your space. Up until that time, I own the air that you breathe. I work, I bring in the food, I bring in the electricity, I pay the rent, I do whatever else is necessary, and you have certain responsibilities. But also, if your daughter is having some difficulty, then what you're supposed to do is explore the whys. I'm glad she has her grandmother that she can talk to. If that's good enough, that's fine. If it's not, I suggest that you get somebody else that she can talk
She's a
to.
really good school counselor, too. She talks to a lot.
Okay. Did your cousin hurt you when she put you out the door?
She dug her nails into my arm, and she squeezed really hard on the back of my neck.
Yeah, well, she has no right to put her hands on you. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So, you have no right to put your hands on her, and there has to be, yes.
It was, what happened was, she came into the house, and she was just going to grab something and then go back. And I was on the phone with my mom, and she looked at me and she said that I looked like a demon child, and she asked me if I looked in the mirror that I was ugly, and I told her, I said, you're ugly, bleach blonde, and she said, that's it, and that's when she threw me out of the house.
She has no right to put her hands on you, and she did. You understand that? The judgment would be for you for $900. That is $400 for the utilities and $500 for June's rent. But I'm going to award you something on your counterclaim because it is unacceptable for somebody to put their hands on another person's child.
Except for, when we lived together, she literally, her daughter had ran away. When her daughter came back, Stacy literally had taken her daughter and literally threw this little girl on the floor.
She's allowed to do that. Well, she's not allowed to do that. That's not the right thing to do. But she's her mother. You're not. A stranger cannot put their hands on somebody else's child. Because when you walked out of the house and slammed the door, because you were going out and her mother wasn't home, you made no provisions for her.
But her mother knew at the time, her mother knew that me and Amanda weren't getting along, so she was taking her daughter to her mom's house. Because she said that to not have us as a conflict, she'd rather have Amanda not there with us.
You have no right to put your hands on somebody else's child. Period. Okay. So on your counterclaim, I'm awarding you $350, which means that you still owe her $550. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She physically tried to have her dog attack me.
I don't want her near my child. My child's terrified of her.
We're done. I don't even associate with her, and I will never associate with her.
Medical biller Melanie Howenstein is suing her stepdaughter, 24-year-old retail clerk Christina Howenstein, for assaulting her with a pitcher of beer.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 425 on the calendar in the matter of Howenstein versus Howenstein. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Ms. Howenstein, the defendant is your stepdaughter.
Correct.
Is your husband here today?
Yes, he is.
How long have you been married?
April 2002.
According to your claim, your stepdaughter assaulted you in a bar.
Right.
She said that she was merely defending herself and you hit her first. Is that right?
No, she hit me first, and then I spilled beer on her first, and then she hit me.
Hit you first?
Yeah.
You were retaliating?
Yeah.
How long did you know her father before you married?
About 3 years.
Did you get along with the daughter?
She's the one that introduced us.
Really?
Yes.
Well, at what point did the friendship with her become a negative?
Probably right after we got married. She realized that money was going to stop, that Dad was going to stop bailing her out, and that was my fault.
So shortly after we were married.
When was this alleged assault?
October 26th.
Tell me about it.
I had gone to a bar in another town with my friend Glee. We got there about 9 o'clock. Approximately 9:30, the defendant and a girlfriend walked in. All night long, they proceeded to flip me off and very immature and childish. About 11:30, I told my friend she had a cell phone. I said, go call my husband, tell him I'm ready to go home. She comes back from the restroom. She said, he'll be here in about a half an hour. About 20 minutes later, the DJ announces that they're starting the big contest. We had no idea what it was even involving. By this time, people are standing. I can't see anything. My friend Glee stands up. They start the contest. She comes down and she said, oh my gosh. And I said, what? She said, your stepdaughter was just on the dance floor, totally naked. And I said, excuse me? By this time, I feel a tap on my shoulder and my husband standing there. He asked me what was going on. I said, I don't know, I didn't see, but Glee just told me that Christina was naked on the dance floor. Well, the contest proceeds.
What kind of contest was it?
It was a
temporary tattoo contest.
Go ahead.
So she comes back, she won the contest for a t-shirt, looks over her shoulder, sees her dad standing there. She looks at her friend, she starts to giggle, and she says, oh, my dad's here. So she comes running over to talk to him, and he put his hands up like this. And she's, Dad, Dad, and he put his hands up like this, and he said, you know, Christina, you made me really proud tonight. And she snapped. She lost it. She was screaming at him, F you, I hate you, you're worthless. And then she went through everybody that was with us, and F you, and F you, and F you. And I stood up, I put my coat on, I said, you've drawn enough attention to yourself. I'm taking my husband, we're leaving. I went to take a drink of my beer. She smashed my hand. The beer went all over me, the floor, everyone. I went to throw my beer back at her. The glass fell off the front of my hand. She claims it hit her in the chin. Turned around to walk out. She picked up half a pitcher of beer and slammed it, hit me in the right here in the head, and we left.
Do you have any medical records?
I do.
Let's see them, please.
You have pictures, ma'am?
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I work at Best Buy. I'm a laborer, and I work part-time as a bartender.
How old are you?
24.
Who do you live with?
Myself.
What time did you get to the bar on the evening of the 26th of October?
It was probably after 10.
Did you come there directly that evening from home?
I stopped up at the bar that I worked at and met Jack up there, and then we went out there.
Was there a contest that night at the bar?
Yes, there was.
Was it a contest where you had any part of your clothes off? The answer is either yes or no. It's very easy to find out. All I have to do is call the bar. The answer is yes or no.
Yes, I had my clothes off.
Would it be a fair statement that in order to get what appears to be, you know, a reasonably intelligent young woman on bar dance floor, have her take her clothes off, she would have to be a little bit drunk?
Yes, I was.
That would be a fair statement?
Yes, I was.
Had you ever done that before?
No.
Would it be a fair statement that when you saw your father there, that you were a little embarrassed?
No, I didn't even know he was there.
After I said when you saw your father there.
No, I wasn't embarrassed.
Not at all?
No.
Then you would have had to have been really drunk.
No, because it has nothing to do with him. It's me, not him. So I'm not embarrassed by it. I did what I did. I can't take it back.
But you wouldn't have done it if you weren't drunk?
Probably not.
Your stepmother was injured as a result of you hitting her on the back of the head with a pitcher. And it's clear to me that you started it.
Somewhat, yes.
Because even according to you, you spilled beer on her by tapping her glass.
I didn't tap her glass. I picked someone's beer up off the bar and threw it on her. I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
There was
even worse.
But
even worse.
It was just the beer. I didn't throw the glass at her.
Even worse. Okay, what it is. You started it. And according to these photographs and the medical records, you finished it. And if you can't control your liquor, don't drink. Period. Because if you think that most normal people would say that a 24-year-old intelligent young lady who is self-supporting, works 2 jobs, lives by herself, whether that it's reasonable and normal behavior for her to get up in front of a whole bunch of strangers and take her clothes off is normal behavior. I'm telling you it is not. Not normal behavior, is it?
Not in my book.
Not in mine either.
Coming up on Judge Judy.
She accused my dad of sleeping with my best friend, and I said something to her about it. She dragged me outside with her and my dad and told me that my dad called me a worthless, good-for-nothing person. That's why they wouldn't have another kid.
And later today,
You started sending her letters that you wanted your money. She said, "You're not my lawyer."
She recognized me as her lawyer, and
Did you recognize him as your lawyer?
I never spoke with him.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melanie Howenstein says stepdaughter Christina Howenstein assaulted her in the middle of a nightclub. Melanie says Christina was so drunk she got naked on stage.
What kind of problem do you have with her?
I've really never had a problem with her. We got along fine. Then we've been having a shaky relationship for 3 years since they've known each other.
Why?
I don't have any idea. I have no clue whatsoever. We got along for 10 months. I was happy that they got married. I don't care that they're married. That's their life. I have nothing to do with it. I don't want them divorced. My father said they were going to get divorced because of this whole situation, and I told him not to because I don't live there. It has nothing to do with me.
Good. Perfect.
No problems, but I don't know. This whole thing has been building up and building up. Like her birthday, she accused my dad of sleeping with my best friend, and I said something to her about it because she does it all the time. And I guess that irritated her because she dragged me outside with her and my dad and told me that my dad called me a worthless, good-for-nothing person. That's why they want to have another kid. So
that's why they what?
They want to have a kid together. So that's why they want to have another kid, is to make up for me being a bad seed. So,
well, that's a ridiculous statement. Listen, try to get along with each other. Life is very short. If you're not best friends with your stepmother, be cordial with your stepmother. Where is your biological mother?
Not in the picture.
Not for a long time. So you have no contact with her?
I see her probably 3 times a year, if that.
Okay, you had more of a relationship with your father?
Yes.
Well, don't throw that away. In any event, you're responsible for these medical bills that she had to pay because you started this argument physically. You ended it physically. She was injured. Medical records are clear. You owe $941. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was just a temporary tattoo contest. Just no big deal. Just me out having fun doing what I like to do.
There was problems long before I was involved, and she needs someone to blame it on, and I guess I'm the easy target.
My father and I do not talk anymore.
Even if I'm not involved, I think he needs to have a relationship with his daughter.
I want nothing to do with her. I'm not going to talk to him because it'll get back to her about me saying stuff, and it's all going to get twisted around like it has been in the past, so I'm not even going to bother.
Homemaker Leslie Rogers is suing her former nanny, 21-year-old Nicole Stowers, for the cost of a plane ticket. Nicole says she doesn't owe.
Order. All rise. Come to order. Everybody get up. Thank you. Quiet, please. Your Honor, this is case number 397 on the calendar in the matter of Rogers versus Stowers. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Mrs. Rogers, you hired the defendant as a nanny, and she worked for you for a very short period of time before quitting. It is your claim that she owes you some money because you made travel arrangements for your family along with the defendant, and it was, you claim, her agreement that if she did not go on these trips with you, or this trip with you, she would pay you for her ticket. Ms. Stowers says that she quit after a couple of weeks because her job responsibilities increased. She wasn't happy about that, and that she did agree to reimburse you for any of your out-of-pocket expenses, which she did by sending you a check for change of name or whatever that had to be done to change the tickets. So why don't you tell me when she came to work for you?
She came to work for me in October, early October. And
she was hired as a result of an ad that you put in the paper?
Yes.
Yeah. And what were her job responsibilities?
At the time when I hired her, I explained that the job was a very busy job, that it wasn't for anybody that just wanted to babysit or sit and watch TV, that it was for a person that had a lot of energy, and it was a lot of laundry. I have 3 very busy kids running around, making messes all the time, and also that we had trips planned.
All right, 3 kids and laundry is what I hear so far.
And house cleaning. House cleaning nanny was the ad that I put in the paper.
You have a copy of the paper?
I'm afraid I don't, Your Honor.
What did the ad say?
It was for a mother's helper, and with light housekeeping,
3 kids.
Yes.
Your Honor, I never said anything about light house cleaning. I made it very clear that it was heavy house cleaning from the very beginning.
What was the ad?
The ad was for mother's helper, house cleaning, child care, homework, kind of a variety of positions.
Oh, not in the ad, madam. Miss Rogers, don't make it up as you're going. I've read lots of ads for mother's helpers, nannies, housekeepers. They don't go into homework. That doesn't happen. Yeah, and you don't have a copy of the ad?
No, I'm afraid I don't, but it did say schoolwork in the ad.
How large a house do you have?
Not a large house, Your Honor. It's
Why don't you tell me how large a house you have?
2-bedroom rambler with hardwood floors.
And you have 3 children. How old are they?
2, 5, and 11.
Do you work outside of the home?
No, I don't.
So it's really helping you?
Yes, it is. But most of the, I must add that most of the responsibility of the house cleaning is left to my mother's helper. And I make that very clear when I interview them, that I like to spend more time at my daughter's school and with her doing homework. And what I needed my helper to do is help keep the house clean and run the kids around to their activities.
And how much were you paying her for this job?
At that time...
How much were you being paid?
$1,500 a month.
And how many days a week were you working?
5 days a week.
How many hours a day?
It was usually 8 hours a day, sometimes more.
Okay. Now tell me about the lawsuit.
Okay. When I hired her, I made it quite clear that we had...
Just tell me what you said. Sorry, tell me what you made clear.
I said that we're taking these trips, and I need to make sure that you're happy with your job before we buy the tickets, because once we buy the tickets, we're locked in. And so I waited 3 weeks before I asked her how she was liking the job and if everything was cool for her. And she said it was, and that she was happy and that she was going to go on the trips with us. So at that time, my husband made the travel arrangements on the computer while we were all standing in the kitchen. My husband printed this out and gave her a copy of each of the trips, so she had a copy of her own, explaining when we would be gone and when we'd be coming back and where we would be going.
Go ahead.
And so everything was fine for a while. Nicole seemed like she was very quiet. And so I kept asking her, is everything okay, Nicole? Are you sure you're happy with your job and everything? She says, yeah, I'm fine. 2 to 3 weeks went by, and it was payday. And my husband paid Nicole, and she left, and everything was fine. And then the next morning, she called in sick. The next day was her day off. The following day, when she should have been there at 1 o'clock, she called me at 1 o'clock. She said that she'd found that the job was just too much work for her and that she wanted to spend more time with her boyfriend, John. At that time, I said, that's terrible because you're just leaving me hanging here. What am I going to do with the kids tonight? She knew I had an important engagement that I had to go to that evening. And I ended up having to call my parents. They're 72 years old, and have them come up to the house so they could watch the 3 children for me. And at that time, I said, Nicole, what about the plane tickets? We can't change the names on those. What are we going to do? And she said, I have the money in the bank, and I'm really sorry about leaving you hanging like this, but I'm going to reimburse you for the money. And she said that she wanted me to bring her a copy of the tickets. 2 days later, she gave me this letter and a copy of the check that she decided, she kind of added up what she felt she owed, which was not accurate.
Just a second.
Okay.
Okay, and she sent you a check for $172, which you didn't cash. Is that right? Okay. All right, now, what do you claim she owes you for?
I claim that she owes me for the 3rd trip that we could not change the name.
3rd trip is to where?
It's to, Darren, was it to Miami?
Fort Lauderdale.
To Fort Lauderdale.
When is that trip scheduled for?
That is April.
April 3rd or 4th.
April 3rd. I was under the impression I could not change the name on the first ticket, and this is a document saying that the electronic, these cannot be changed, and that was why I was under the impression that she would owe me for that full amount on the first ticket that she paid me. $50, was that correct, Darren?
Yes.
But you could change the name.
We found that we could change the name.
Right, okay.
So that's not what we're suing her for.
All right, Nicole?
Yes.
Let me hear your end of the story.
Well, when I first started working for him, it was a nanny job. I was there to take care of the kids and clean up after the kids. It changed, like, after about 2 weeks, it changed from watching the kids and taking care of the kids to being their maid, basically. I was mopping their floors, cleaning their bathrooms, ironing, cleaning up after the dog, everything. The second day I worked there, she asked me if I wanted to go on the trip with them to the Caribbean in January. And I said yes, because it's 3 months away. I was doing okay in the job, like it felt comfortable, but it was only the second day. So I agreed to go with them on that trip, and I agreed to pay for the trip if I backed out, if I quit, which I paid for when I quit. As far as the one in April,
how much was that, the change of name on that trip in January?
Well, they gave me, I have the letter here that they wrote me, and he originally wanted me to pay $359 for the ticket, but I called Alaska Air to see how much the ticket was, and I found out that he bought it with his mileage, and he only paid $5 for it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I can understand why she quit. Easy. It was a lot of work, and you were not paying her a lot of money.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Leslie Rogers says former nanny Nicole Stowers agreed to accompany her family on a vacation. Leslie says right before the trip, Nicole quit.
How did he pay $5 for it?
Because he used his miles off his card, so he paid $5 for the ticket.
Is that right, sir?
I bought 6 tickets.
Is that correct?
2 of the tickets I paid $364. 4 of the tickets I bought with miles. I'm not suing her for that ticket at all.
I understand that you're not suing her for that ticket. You did write her a note, however, that says, Nicole, you can still use these tickets for a round trip to Miami, round trip to Fort Lauderdale, and the Miami trip cost $359, and the Fort Lauderdale trip cost $365, which indicated that you expected her to pay for these.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I understand why, listen, I understand that you are annoyed, Miss Rogers, that she left you in a lurch without giving you adequate notice. I understand that. I also understand that for $375, you're asking her to not only act as the nanny, but you're asking her to do house cleaning, not light house cleaning, house cleaning. It was a lot of work, and you were not paying her a lot of money. So I can understand why she quit. Easy. And you did not have any prearrangement with her, even according to your own testimony, Miss Rogers. No prearrangement with her that she was going to pay for this Fort Lauderdale trip. According to your own testimony, what you said was when you called her afterwards, she said she feels really badly and she's going to reimburse you for what you were out of pocket on the ticket. That's what you just testified to. That's what you just testified to. You said you were standing around. You said, shall I book these tickets? She said, yes, you can book these tickets. And we were all standing around in the kitchen and we booked the tickets. Then you said after she quit, and you called her and you said, you're leaving me in a lurch. She said, yes, I understand. And what about the tickets? And she said, I will reimburse you for whatever out of pocket was. There was not a prearrangement when you bought these tickets, especially in April, that you bought in when, October or November? You don't have indentured servants these days, Miss Rogers. Something could happen in 6 months or 8 months' time. So if your husband bought tickets on miles, maybe you should have saved his miles and bought the one for Fort Lauderdale. I think she's a very nice young lady for sending you $172. If I were you, I would cash the check. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was lying and saying that it was more work than I had told her from the beginning, and that's not true.
If I wouldn't have quit on payday, I would have been the one suing them for my wage.
Office manager Victoria Bricker is suing her ex-boyfriend, security guard Alfonso McLeod, for damages to a car she financed and for an unpaid loan for furniture. Alfonso is countersuing for the money he put towards the car.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 267 on the calendar in the matter of Bricker versus McLeod. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Bricker, while you and the defendant were in a relationship, it is your claim that you financed a car for him.
That's correct.
With the understanding that he was going to make all the payments, and when all the payments were made, the title would be placed in his name. He missed a payment. You took the car back. The time you... Yes, according to your complaint, madam, that's what you say. You say part of your agreement was that if he missed one payment, you would take the car back. He missed a payment, you took the car back. When you took the car back, it had a bad transmission, and you want him to pay for the transmission, and that he owes you money for furniture. Now, is anything that I said incorrect?
He missed the payment in December.
I don't care when he missed it. He missed a payment.
Right, correct. But I did not get the car back until...
I don't care when you got the car back.
I didn't
the
get the car
reason
back
you
until
took
August.
the car back is because he missed a payment.
He asked me if I wanted the car back. I did not take the car back from him. I sent him a certified letter stating that he could keep the car because I didn't want it back because I knew the transmission was damaged.
So why did you take it back?
He called and asked me if I wanted the car back. And so that's exactly what I did. I said, then fine, if you don't want the car, then give it back to me. So...
Miss Bricker, you have the car.
Correct.
You want him to pay you for the bad transmission.
Correct.
He made all the payments for the car except one.
Correct.
That's what I said.
Okay.
And you claim that you made a loan to him for furniture. He says it was never a loan for furniture. You bought some furniture for his house, but that was of your own volition. There was never a discussion of it being a loan. And you were really being sort of spiteful in taking back the car because he made all of the payments. For how long, sir?
For 11 months.
One payment he missed, and it wasn't even the last payment. It was a payment several months before. And he thought that you forgave that missed payment. And if you had asked him for it, he would have given it to you. So he is counterclaiming. He's counterclaiming for all the money he put into the car. That's what this case is about. Where is the car?
He has it right now.
I have it right now.
You do?
Yeah.
What do you have it for?
Because she told me if I started making payments on it, that she would allow me to continue to make payments on it.
That is not true.
That is
You
true.
have the car now.
I have the car now.
Good, so your counterclaim's dismissed, right? Because you have the car, right? What do you look so stunned for? What do you look stunned for? You're counterclaiming for the car payments because you say you want all the money back.
As long as...
You have the car back. That was your agreement.
Because it wasn't ever my intention to give her the car back. I wanted to keep making payments on it.
That's what you're going to do, right?
Right.
So you're withdrawing your counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's what I thought. Okay, and you're withdrawing that part of your claim that deals with the transmission for the car because you didn't have it fixed. Is that right?
The reason he has the car back is because his dad's truck broke down that he was using. He called up and asked if he could rent the car from me, and I said fine. He gave me $50 on Wednesday to rent the car from me because he had no transportation to take his kids to and from school.
Miss Bricker, did you pay any money to fix the transmission on the car?
Over $3,800, yes, I did.
Let me see the bill.
Your Honor. Your Honor.
There's also another. The transmission became disabled, and there was a statement that said from his mechanic that said that the car was going to need a new transmission. A year later is when I paid for the new transmission. After he called me and told me, you can have the car back. Here's the receipts.
I just want to see the bill
Your
for
Honor.
the transmission.
Your Honor. I intended on making payments on it and getting the transmission fixed, and she makes it seem like I just gave the car back because it was broken.
That's exactly
That's
why
not
I gave
correct.
the car back.
We broke up.
I don't care. I don't care. You have to pay her for having the car fixed if you want it back.
I was going to pay that.
Good. Now let's hear about the furniture.
In October, I came into some money, a lot of money. And what ended up happening is he was getting ready to move out from where he was currently living with his 2 small children, and he was moving into a new place. And I wanted things nice. He had old furniture for the kids. He had absolutely nothing, no pots and pans, hardly anything in the house, because most of the stuff was missing after his divorce from his wife or separation. And so what I did, and he agreed to this, I said, here's some furniture that's for sale. I said, it's $125. It was a 7-piece, couch, sofa, love seat, coffee table, lamp, the whole thing. And I said, do you want this? And he said, yes. And I go, well, I'll pay it, and then you'll pay me back. And that was the agreement. I wasn't buying this for him. I gave him other gifts other than...
We're talking about $125?
No. It's not more. It's more than that. It's stuff for the bathroom that I purchased.
All gifts.
It was not gifts.
Shh, don't speak to her. What do you mean stuff for the bathroom? What's stuff for the bathroom?
Stuff for the bathroom, shower curtains, towels, clothes for the kids, dressers, all of that stuff. I paid for everything, and he agreed that he would pay me back for all of this.
Show me.
I have it.
Show me.
Show. What do you want me to show you? He said, send me statements, and I did. I started sending them back in March to them, and I have copies of the statements that I started sending.
You have something on that recording that says that he acknowledges that debt?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to hear it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Money only came up when we separated.
I'm not interested interested in that explanation. You were giving her money for a long time.
That's what I want to say. The only time when she asked for something is when we broke up.
You're slick.
And later today,
I went and picked up the truck. I had legal right to do so.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Well, I got court ordered to do so.
Oh, well, let me see the court order.
I don't have it on me.
Well, then you don't have it. Then you don't have it. If you don't have it with you, then you don't have it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Victoria Bricker says ex-boyfriend Alfonso McLeod owes for car damages and for an unpaid loan for furniture.
All right. Let me hear the tape, please.
Number 8 at 5:26 a.m.
Do you think hanging up on me is going to make you get paid any quicker? But like I said, before you were such an immature child and hung up the phone, I'm willing to give you your money back that I owe you. I'm also willing to give you $50 a month to ensure that you get paid and receive every last penny that I owe you. But if you don't think that that's good enough, why don't you just go ahead and take me to court? And then that way we'll find out which you will ultimately end up receiving. Either it's going to be all or it's going to be nothing. So those are your two options. You let me know what you want to do. You can go ahead and call me during my bad power hours. You can go ahead and tell me what you think about that, okay? Bye-bye.
Okay, now I'll hear you.
Well, every other conversation, she's like, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? Money only came up when we separated.
I'm not interested in that explanation. September 8th, you said I'm going to give you back all the money that I owe you.
And I was referring to the car.
How many more months do you have to pay her out?
About between 30 and 36.
You mean to pay to the bank?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'm willing to do that.
You're slick. Tell me about the things that you purchased for the house, because you're entitled to have your say. I'm not interested in what you have to say. I'm interested in what he has to say right now. Oh. Tell me about the things that you purchased for the house and how that came about.
Okay. I had furniture, I had a TV, whatnot, blah, blah. You know, she's like, well, this is old stuff.
Were you dating at the time?
Yes.
When did you move?
December of 2001. We had broken up 3 times since then, but we were still dating.
You were dating in December of 2001 when you moved. Is that correct, Miss Bricker?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I had my furniture in there, but as she says, it was old, so she offered to get new furniture. I said, okay. And she knew my situation. She knew that I was going through a divorce and that I'm paying child support for 3 other children. I'm raising my 2 daughters by myself. So she offered to buy this furniture among other items that I felt were considered gifts. Well, if you have money to go ahead and pay me back, then go ahead. If I can't pay you all at once, it's okay. Just give me money when you can. Okay.
Is that what she said to you?
Yes.
And is that what you said to her?
Yes.
So you were paying her back for the furniture?
Yes, if I had...
Shh! Listen to me. Just answer my question. You were paying her back for the furniture?
Yes.
Why did you stop?
Actually, I didn't stop, Your Honor.
Well, when was the last time you paid her any money for the furniture?
I would say probably in July.
Let me see.
Well, here's a bank statement, too, that shows the highlighted parts, or the things that are highlighted is the payments that I put into her account.
Okay, you made the car payment, so the last time you made payment was, and you're right, in July. For the other things.
Yes. Can I say something?
No! Because you're all over the place, sir. You have to have a defense. Your defense is either it was a gift, or your defense was that I don't have any more money, but you say it was a gift, but I did make payments. You don't make payments on a gift.
I was giving her money because that's what she asked for.
You were giving her money for a long time.
That's what I want to say. The only time when she asked for something is when we broke up. Everything was okay when we're together. And when we broke up, it's like, I want my car back.
How many children do you have?
5.
Is that her fault?
No, it's not her fault.
It's not her fault, sir, if you have to work 5 jobs because you made 5 children. It's not her fault. You don't take on responsibilities, borrow money that you can't pay back. You don't make more children than you can afford to take care of. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
She wanted the car back when we...
I didn't ask you anything else. Does this $38.42 include the car?
Yes. I subtracted the payment.
Just answer my question.
Yes,
does that
it does.
say yes?
Yes, it does include the car.
Car and the furniture?
Yes, it does.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $38.42. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You get involved with somebody, you make mistakes, you come from an honest place, and they don't.
Next time you get a girlfriend like that, make sure you have everything in writing.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Yonkers versus Ponce. Step forward, please.
20-year-old dietary aide Melissa Yonkis is suing her one-time blind date, 21-year-old student Richard Ponce, for the cost of a motel room and several in-room movies.
The two of you, according to what I've read, were introduced to each other socially through a friend and began communicating both on the phone and the internet. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you decided it was time to meet. And for some bizarre reason that I'm sure someone will explain to me briefly, you decided to have your first meeting at a motel. You arrived at the motel and you decided to put the room on your credit card.
That's correct.
You went into the motel to hang out. According to you, you got disgusted with something that happened in the motel because he was going out to visit a friend, and you stormed out. Then later on, you got a bill for 2 nights' stay at a hotel because he evidently decided to stay that night, an extra night, and for some movies that he had rented. You want him to pay you back for the 2 nights at the motel and the videos. Is that what this case is about?
That's correct.
He says that you stormed out, that somebody, he assumes it was you, vandalized his car, which caused him to get stuck in the motel for an extra day. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Just tell me why, briefly, you decided to have your first meeting in a motel.
Well, I'd worked late that night, and I live 45 minutes away from the defendant, so by the time I got to where he lives, it was already late, so there wasn't really much else we could do. We both live with our parents, couldn't go to each other's houses, so we decided to go to a hotel. We had talked about it for a long time, and that was the most convenient day, so we decided.
So what time did you arrive at the motel?
I think it was around 10:30.
And what happened, sir, that caused you to want to leave?
Well, the thing was, I was just not really into her when I met up with her.
You didn't like what you saw?
Well, I went out with a drink with my buddy, which I invited her to come out with me. I came back to the hotel, and I realized that my car was vandalized.
Yes.
My tires were slashed. The car wouldn't start. I'd called a friend who was a tow truck driver to fix. This car was a loaner. This is not my car. So I had to get the car fixed before my friend had found out it had been vandalized, or else she wouldn't trust me ever again with the loaner whenever the emergency case might be needed again, you know?
Why did you stay at the motel 2 nights?
Well, my tow truck driver, the friend that I had was a tow truck, was out of town, and he told me he'd be in town.
Well, Mr. Ponce, you know, you're making this up as you're going. You live in that town, do you not?
I live in the area.
You live in the area. Go home.
Well, I couldn't leave the car there.
Why not? It wasn't gone anywhere. It was already vandalized, had flat tires, and it wouldn't run. So what do you mean you couldn't leave it there?
Well, I couldn't leave it there. I just don't trust leaving a car just vandalized like that. I'm sure a tow truck would just pick it up, a car like that, like, you know, it wasn't even mine. Then I'll lose track and see where it's going to go. So I stayed there the night. I waited until my friend came to pick it up. He fixed it, and unfortunately,
let me see all your receipts,
I don't
sir.
have any evidence or receipts because of the fact that I paid him to fix the car, and it was not like he's not working in a mechanic shop.
You are so full of yourself. You are so full of it and yourself. I begin to zone out because there is nothing there of substance, nothing truthful. I don't even have to listen to it. I mean, I can fantasize about a whole bunch of other things. I'll listen to you. Listen, the first day of the motel you pay for. Do you understand? That's your mistake. How much did the second night cost? Show me your bill.
Okay. With the movies and the extra day, it cost me $221.
For the second night in the movies?
Yeah, altogether it was $360.
Did you watch any of the movies with him?
No, I left after the first night.
$221. Listen, consider yourself lucky. He's a real loser. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $221. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This car business, I don't even know where it came from.
She had vandalized my car.
He was the one who pursued me. I don't know what he's talking about. He wasn't into me because he totally was. He made all the first moves, everything.
She's pretty much overconfident with herself. She thought just, like, you know, with her looks, she can get everything, you know.
I'm just happy she saw through that whole lie.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Dabrowski versus Allen, step forward, please.
22-year-old sales rep Lena Dabrowski is suing dog breeder Teresa Allen for a refund for a pit bull puppy and related expenses. Teresa is countersuing for boarding costs and loss of profit.
Mr. Dabrowski, you claim to have purchased a puppy from the defendant, and the puppy turned out to have certain medical problems. Ms. Allen says that there was nothing wrong with the puppy. As a matter of fact, she is counterclaiming. She says that she had a great deal of expense because you returned this puppy to her. At first glance, her countersuit is nonsense, but I will allow her to at least tell me what she thinks you owe her. How did you find this breeder? What kind of a dog did you purchase and when?
It's American Pit Bull Terrier. I found her in June.
How did you find her?
On the internet. We contacted each other through email at first. I couldn't pay for what she was asking up front.
What was she asking?
The $1,000 for a puppy. And when we had a phone conversation after that, we agreed on $500 as long as whenever this dog is shown, her name comes up, kind of like a representation.
And where did you have to go to pick the puppy up?
I had to drive to Las Vegas from San Diego to pick the puppy up.
You mean there are no puppies where you live?
I'm sure there was. I thought she was a very reputable breeder.
Go ahead.
The dogs that I saw on the pictures, I really like the dogs.
Do you have a bill of sale?
Yes, I have the actual contract. Where it states actually right here, where the puppy was $500 and there was no deposit right next to it.
Well, let me take a look at the contract. You picked up this puppy on the 2nd of March?
Yes, 2nd of March.
Okay, and when did you take the puppy to the vet?
To the vet, I took it on, that's the first vet appointment was on the 6th. But I called her the next day. I noticed that one of its eye was discolored. So I called her that day.
What do you mean discolored? Tell me.
It had like a bluish grayish tint in it. Goes this. And you don't need the fee. So just basically here, and it talks about the eyes. Is where that is.
Under the examination report, this veterinarian indicates under the eyes there is a discharge, trouble with vision, abnormalities. Now, did you call her and let her know what the results of this examination were?
Yes, I did.
And what did she say to you?
And she said that basically I have to take it because that vet didn't know, and there's no way that that's happening with the dog. I have to take it to an ophthalmologist because.
And did you take it to an ophthalmologist?
I just end up taking it to an ophthalmologist.
Can I see the report from the
Definitely.
ophthalmologist?
This is the letter from the ophthalmologist. And in the bottom, in bold, it states exactly what's wrong with the dog and what its condition is.
So after you got this from the ophthalmologist, what did you do?
In order to avoid the shipping cost, we agreed that if I was to take it to an ophthalmologist and pay the $65 fee, her husband was going to be down in Riverside in April. I would drive up to Riverside, which would be a lot shorter for me, and just give him the dog then.
Excuse me, Your Honor. That was not the whole agreement.
Well, what was the agreement?
Well, first off, she threatened me on the phone throughout the whole conversation.
She's not finished yet. Then you'll have your turn, unless you can give me a swift. That was not our agreement. Our agreement was...
The agreement was that if I went to the show, that we would take the dog out there at the time when we went to the dog show.
So you did have an agreement that you would pick up the dog if you went out to a dog show?
If we went to the dog show, yes,
And you didn't go to the dog show. Is that what you're
telling
me?
No, we didn't go to the dog show on that dog show.
Oh, okay. So you spent $65 for the vet.
I spent $65.
And how much did you spend to send the dog back because they didn't go to the dog show?
$138.87, and I have the receipt for that as well.
Go ahead.
And she also told me that I had to take it to get its shots. And that was another $30.95, and that already happened March 14th. And I have the receipts for that as well.
Okay. And $500 for the puppy.
Right.
Okay, now I'll hear you, Miss Allen.
Ma'am, I do have a copy of the breed standard for UKC. Mr. Dabrowski states that the dog is not breedable and showable. Breed standard does not specify that.
She wanted to return the puppy.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me explain something to you, Miss Allen. This puppy was in ill health. She is entitled to, under the terms of your contract, her money back.
Yes, ma'am. And I told her I would give her money back, all but the deposit, which is non-refundable, which, when anybody ever emails me about a dog, I explain to them that there's a $200 non-refundable deposit required on
Just show me in your contract where there was a deposit.
On that one, ma'am, there's not.
This is the only contract. Where is it? You have another contract?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see. I would like to see the other contract. Have the plaintiff write her name 3 times on this piece of paper, please.
Sorry, write the what?
Just write your name.
Write your name 3 times.
First and second name. I want you to look at this and I want you to tell me whether this is your signature. This is the contract that the defendant says plaintiff signed, which indicates that there was a $200 deposit. Is that your signature?
That does not look like my signature, no.
It sure doesn't to me.
You know what? I don't do the K's and the Y's like that, no. My SKY is never like that.
It's not her signature. You wrote this yourself. Give this back to her. She wrote it herself. It's not her signature as it appears on the complaint. It's not her signature as it appears in her writing exemplar. This is her signature, 213. No deposit. Price for puppy, $500. No deposit. What are you, a Swiftie? I mean,
No,
what's
ma'am,
wrong
that's
with you?
her signature, ma'am.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's not her signature. You're a business person. You say, return the dog to me pursuant to our contract. I'm going to send you your money back, or you can come and pick out another puppy.
And, ma'am, I did that except for the deposit, which was
There was no deposit. You're a Swiftie.
No, ma'am.
Not in the contract. Not in the contract that I see. She didn't do this contract over again.
This is the same contract. I printed out 2 copies that day, ma'am, and she signed both of the copies in front of me.
No. One says deposit 0.
Yes, ma'am, and because I messed up on both the contracts, on the first one that she signed, ma'am, I did not put the deposit. When I print out the second one, I made sure that I did that right.
But she didn't sign her name. You did.
No, ma'am.
Or your husband did, or your friend. No. The signatures are totally different. Totally, completely different. The contract, however, does say that the return of the dog is at your expense.
Okay.
You understand that?
Yes.
So you are entitled to $500, which is the cost of your puppy, $65 that you paid for the doctor. It's another $30 to have shots, right? Because she told you to have shots.
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
I've had to place the dog in a home.
I was getting the runaround.
She called animal control and tried to get me in trouble with them.
The trip out there was actually on the animal control part, because it turns out she had no business license or any permits.
It's just been one thing after another.
I constantly had to go here, go there, go here, do this.
Never make deals with anybody. If they want a dog, they'll pay the full price for the dog.
Andrew Scruggs is suing his ex-wife, Lori Watziger, for the cost of tools she wrongfully sold.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2189, Strubs versus Watziger.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs, you have brothers and sisters?
No, ma'am.
Were your father and your mother? Who predeceased whom?
My mother died when I was 17 years old, and my father died in 2019 after a long-time illness, and he had his tools at my property.
You and the defendant were married for 10 years.
Correct.
You separated in what year?
2016.
And when you left, she stayed in the house.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Sometime prior to 2016, according to you, you borrowed some tools of your father's.
That's correct. I actually
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the tools that you borrowed from your father were left in the marital home 2016, 17, 18. Your father died in 2019. You were divorced in 2000.
We were divorced in 2019 was the final judgment.
And then things sort of got away from you. So now we're in 2023, and you want your father's tools back or money for them, according to you, $10,000 worth.
Yes, ma'am.
Ridiculous. Let's start out with ridiculous. Where were you in 2019?
2019 is when my father died, and shortly after he died, I was taking care of his affairs, and we still had an ongoing court case that consisted of our minor children at the time, and I was under advisement of my attorney.
Don't tell me what your attorney advised you. It's hearsay. You did nothing with regard to the tools. In what year did you borrow the tools from your father?
It was 2013. I brought the tools over to my storage shed, and...
Mr. Scruggs, you gotta let it go. You haven't had the tools in 7 years. You've been out of the house since 2016? 2016.
What, Your Honor?
And you've been, look at you, and you've been living. Who is this?
This is my current wife.
So, you got divorced, you remarried,
When did you remarry?
I got remarried in 2018.
Well, so you found time to get married, right? Just a second. That's a yes or a no.
Yes,
you found time to get married.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a big wedding?
No, ma'am.
You had a small wedding. Do you have any children?
Yes, ma'am.
With your current wife?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
One child.
How old?
She's 5.
So you managed to have a baby. Well, I'm suggesting to you, sir, how many different jobs did you have since 2016?
I've had 2 different employers.
Since 2016, so you also looked for another job and found another job. So let's see. You got married, you had a child, you changed jobs, but all of a sudden in 2023, the tools are important. Now, how many children did you and the defendant have?
2 children.
How old are they?
I have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old.
You pay child support?
No, ma'am.
How come?
Because one of the children lives with me full-time.
For how long?
She's lived with me full-time for approximately 3 years.
But when you and the defendant separated, she was living with her mother.
Only for a short amount of time.
How long?
Probably about a year.
Yes,
and I paid support during that time.
And the other child?
Is 45-55 split.
So that's why you don't pay child support?
Correct.
And do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And at some point, so what do you want to say and why?
Just that the reason we were not able to do anything about the tools was that she had an order of protection.
The tools are stupid.
Was that she had an order of protection against him.
The tools are stupid. Orders of protection don't disqualify you from coming to small claims court.
They said that it wasn't able to.
Oh, no, what's a they? Oz? You were allowed to come for small claims court, file a petition and say, these tools belong to me. He didn't do it during the divorce. He didn't do it before your wedding. He didn't do it after your wedding. He didn't do it before your daughter was born. He didn't do it till after your daughter was born. She's now 5 years old. It's 10 years after the tools were moved from your father's house into the marital home. That would be a fair statement. 10 years. You said 2013. We're now in 2023.
Correct. And,
okay.
Your Honor, I do have here where my dad filed a police report where he was trying to recover the tools.
Well, unfortunately...
And the defendant here obviously lied to this officer here and told them that
So what? So what? I want you to forget $10,000, sir. It's not happening for you. Put a period. The only thing that I'm going to consider is she did, in fact, sell the tools. That she acknowledges. Now, she can't sell something that doesn't belong to her. And in what year did you sell the tools?
I sold the tools. Our divorce was signed in 2018. They had gotten married. He'd quit paying a mortgage, so I had to find a way to pay.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Can't you just tell me, in what year did you sell the tools?
It was on and off between August and October of 2018.
So you sold them piecemeal?
Yes, ma'am.
And you remember that, so you must have put an ad someplace.
I put an ad on Craigslist because I needed to pay the mortgage. And I didn't only sell his tools, I sold jewelry that was mine.
I get it, but you sold it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have an inventory about... First of all, they weren't his tools, they were his father's tools. But I've asked him whether or not he was an only child. He is an only child, so he would stand to inherit these tools unless there was another child that he doesn't know about because his mother predeceased his father. So,
Your Honor, I do have an inventory from that.
I don't care. Understand this. I don't care. How do you know it was $1,000 if you sold them over a 3 or 4 month period? And if the answer to that is I don't know, or I pulled out the number from my behind, then that's an answer. But not that I sold the tools to put food on the table for my children. That's not an answer.
And later today.
I do have a witness that I brought with me, my daughter, who actually did see.
You sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? Be very careful, Miss Vieira. Are you sure you want to put her...
Andrew Scruggs claims his ex-wife, Lori Watzinger, wrongfully sold his father's tools and kept the money.
You let it lapse too long. Your father died 4 years ago. You and the defendant are separated for 6 years. The tools were there for 10 years. Courts don't care. We use a whole bunch of things, statute of limitations, we use latches, we use all kinds of terms when people don't act quickly to assert their rights to something. Because we don't want to be bothered with what happened 10 years ago and 12 years ago with this kind of nonsense. We do it with certain things that are important. Crimes are important. So sometimes we let statute of limitations get blurry, but not this. But you sold the tools. You had no right to sell the tools, so he's entitled to the money that you got for selling the tools. Now, according to you, you sold all the tools for how much?
$1,000.
And how do you know it was $1,000? Because you say you sold it over a period of time.
Because I have the paperwork where I had submitted so many payments to the mortgage because I sold them just to pay the mortgage and to feed the kids.
Listen, I'm going to get out my violin, madam. I asked you a specific question.
Yes, ma'am.
My specific question is, how do you know it was $1,000 if you sold them over a 3 or 4 month period? And if the answer to that is I don't know, or I pulled out the number from my behind, then that's an answer. But not that I sold the tools to put food on the table for my children. That's not an answer. How do you know it was $1,000?
Because I had put that money into the bank. I paid the mortgage with it.
Your Honor, you're exactly right. The defendant here is a liar and a manipulator.
Just a second.
And she will tell you whatever she thinks that you want to hear.
Well, that's true, sir. And I don't believe she sold the tools for $1,000, but I don't know that.
Because
and you wait,
just a second.
Just a second.
I guarantee you.
Oh,
I guarantee she made $13,000, $14,000.
No, that's possible, sir. Prove it. Proof. Just a second. It's your burden of proof. You have to prove to me that she sold them for $13,000. And even then, you're late in bringing this suit. But you can't prove that.
Well, because she is a manipulator is why this ex parte order and
listen
all this,
to me, I don't care. You're not following me. Courts, not me personally, courts, I am the court. We don't care because what you did was wait too long to assert a claim. You waited too long. According to you, you had COVID and the pandemic came in between and, you know, having another child and getting married to somebody else. All those were reasons you had personal issues why you didn't assert your rights in a timely fashion. So we're not going back to try to recreate something that you can't recreate. And neither can she, actually, because you don't have to keep track of something that happened 3-4 years ago.
Well, even in the agreed,
we're done. You have to understand.
Well, even our agreed judgment that she signed, I've texted her not 3 months ago trying to retrieve items.
Just a second. You have a judgment of divorce that says in the judgment of divorce she is to return the tools to you.
No.
Okay.
The tools are nothing in that judgment.
Nothing. Okay. You sold them for $1,000?
Yes, ma'am.
You can't sell somebody else's property. And that's all that he can prove is what you say you sold them for. And I'm not sure that that's what you sold them for. But he waited too long. And the only thing that I can establish at this point is that you sold somebody else's tools for $1,000. That's it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
The defendant, she obviously is a liar and manipulator, and she got a lot more than even the $10,000, and these were what I considered family heirlooms.
No, actually, no. I've got the documents for that.
Even after my father died, I looked at her and said, you know, we need to just fix this, and I came to her and said, you know.
Because he can't let me go.
If it's a matter of money, let me give you the money for the tools, and she still was selling the tools to, we think, her best friend.
Because they don't want me happy.
I'm sure glad that it's over, and hopefully we can coexist and take care of our son that we have together.
I'd like to be friends. I mean, for the children, anything to make the children happy.
You know what's more fascinating to me than anything else, and I have to when we leave today, I'm going to go back and look up the doctrine of latches.
It was a brief footnote, I think, in one of our case books.
Right, because we're talking 60 years ago when I went to law school. And I seem to remember you had both a statute of limitations, which was a formalized statute for certain causes of action, and you had to bring them within a certain period of time. That, I'm sure they taught you in law school. But I seem to remember, Sarah, there was a doctrine of latches which discusses why you're supposed to bring an action in a timely fashion.
More of a common sense argument as opposed to a
preservation of evidence, because people And this is a perfect example.
I think they call it ripeness now, but same concept.
Maybe.
More of a way for judges like yourself to be able to use common sense in cases like this and say, there's no evidence that's going to be preserved 10 years later. You had all these opportunities. Common sense tells me, therefore, it's not ripe. Yeah. And I think it's a good doctrine because although there might not be a set statute for this particular cause of action, it doesn't mean that evidence just appears out of nowhere that you're going to be able to use.
That you don't preserve.
Exactly.
That you don't preserve it. And certainly, he made a whole lifetime for himself in 10 years. Divorced, remarried, had a child, had changed jobs, changed careers.
A lot can happen in 10 years.
Yeah, but what's not going to happen is...
Kara Simmons is suing her former friend, Jania Freeman, for water damage caused by Jania's 14-year-old daughter.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
Hello.
Case 2180, Simmons versus Freeman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Simmons, how long have you known Miss Freeman?
I met her in the 3rd grade. I've seen her a few times since then.
And you were having a party for one of your kids?
Yes, my oldest son.
How old is he?
12.
And it was a house party. And was she invited?
She was invited. I invited everybody from my Facebook, my family, and my friends.
How many people did you have?
There was about 10 kids that came.
And one of those children was the defendant's daughter, who was 14?
At the time, yes.
Is that you?
Yes.
Could you stand up next to your mother? Tell me your first name.
Miari.
And did you come with one child or more, Miss Freeman?
2.
Your daughter and who else?
My 11-year-old son.
And at some point in the party, the kids went outside.
Yeah, so it was inside of a party room, and we were on the 2nd floor, and they were able to go play at the equipment that's on the 2nd floor.
Do you have photographs of the equipment?
I do on my phone, but I have a picture of where her daughter was playing at.
Let me see what you have. Okay, come up here. Is this where you were playing?
Yeah.
On the grassy area?
More like, so it was 3 of us. We were all sitting right here, and I just so happened to be like more inside of the plant.
I just want to know whether you were in the planter or outside on this grass. In here or out here?
Both.
So you were both?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you can go back. Okay. Just for my information, what were you doing in the planter?
Well, more like I was like on top of it, not necessarily like in it. I wasn't trying to be in it, but my friends were sitting down and they were talking, and I didn't want to sit, so I was standing up on it.
Standing up on this is not my question. Were you in the planter where the plants were?
Yes.
Yes. Well, you knew you weren't supposed to be in the planter where the plants were. I mean, you're an intelligent girl, aren't you? Yeah. So you knew you weren't supposed to be in here.
Yes.
Right. Okay. That's all. You know, I mean, we're not talking about a homicide here. We're talking about being someplace you're not supposed to be, in the planter. So it was just the 3 of you outside.
Yes.
The 2 kids who were sitting on the edge of this planter where you're supposed to sit, and you who were both on the edge and inside the planter.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what happened with the head of a sprinkler system while you were out there.
So what happened was we were talking and playing, and I was running around, so I was going from it on top of it, trying to be tall, running off the grass onto the steps, onto the planter and stuff like that. And somehow, I'm not really sure, I don't really remember, but the green thing that was in it, I don't remember what made me notice it, but I do remember that my foot had made contact with it, and I started to notice it, and I was looking at it, and then I was like, something's wrong here. I seen the top to the green thing, and I felt like that may have been me who moved it, so I thought to put it back. And as I was trying to put it back, it was being mad difficult, so I started jumping on top of it to make sure it stayed on top.
Let's get back to you. At some point after this happened, you were contacted by the landlord of your facility.
Yes, but I didn't know that she was outside doing that.
I don't care. She's just acknowledged that she did it. Why would that bother you?
It doesn't bother me.
Well, then it's not relevant. She acknowledged that that's what happened. She was in the wrong place. She broke something. According to her, she tried to fix it by jumping on it. Clearly the wrong thing to do. So if there was damage as a result of that, there's no question she's responsible. Since she's a minor, her mother's responsible. It's that simple. Okay? Do you have a video of what happened that afternoon?
Yes.
Okay, can we see that, please? This came from security camera?
Yes.
Okay, you're in the white shorts, right?
Yes.
What are you bending down to pick up?
The top.
You mean it's that heavy and then other kids get...
heavy.
Shh. Okay, I got it. Well, you understand, Ms. Freeman, if Ms. Simmons can establish that something that your daughter did, which she did on purpose, knowing she wasn't supposed to be there, you're responsible for whatever damage she did as a result of, that's probably a sprinkler head. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because you say in your answer that you left for a period of time and she didn't properly supervise your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's not true because your daughter's 14 years old. She's old enough to be outside unsupervised. There were younger children out there who knew enough not to jump around in the planter. She was the only one who jumped around in the planter. She was the oldest one out there.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
She was supposed to supervise them. If there was a 6-year-old who did that and she's outside, you would let a 14-year-old take care of a 6-year-old. And she doesn't require her supervision. And when she had a problem that day, and clearly it was a problem with somebody else's property, when the two of you were home that evening, did she tell you she had had a problem?
No, ma'am.
She didn't tell you anything about it?
No.
That she broke something?
No, ma'am.
Okay, when did she finally tell you she broke something?
When Kara contacted me that the apartments were contacting her, then I asked my daughter about it, and she told me what she told you.
Great. Can I see the letter from the complex, please? Do you know how many children she has?
She has 3 children.
So she's dispossessed from her apartment. That's 4 people who are homeless. She's going to lose this housing unless she pays the damage that your daughter caused. That doesn't seem reasonable for her to lose her housing, does it?
Kara Simmons claims her former friend, Jania Freeman, owes for water damage caused by Jania's 14-year-old daughter.
So what this says is that they looked at this video because they tried to determine what caused the leak in a commercial business operating in the building. The leak caused substantial damage, $9,927 to be exact as a result, because this was a water pipe and it was broken. Okay, and it tells her that unless they get this $9,927, she's going to lose her housing, right?
Yes.
Your fault. What can I tell you? Don't let your mother ask. I'm asking you, what's the issue? You caused the damage, whether you accidentally hit that pipe initially. You knew you shouldn't have been there. And it's clear that whatever you were doing, you were jumping with full force with both feet on that pipe. That's clear. You tried to pick it up. You leaned over at least twice to try to pick it up and then put it down and then stomped on it. Clearly, you weren't supposed to be there. The landlord is holding her responsible because under the terms of her lease, she's responsible for any damage caused by not only a member of her household, but an invited guest. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So sometimes if you're acting stupid, nothing happens. Sometimes if you're acting stupid, a lot of things happen. Do you know how many children she has?
She has 3 children.
They all live at home?
They all were there, yes.
Yeah. So if she's dispossessed from her apartment, that's 4 people who are homeless. She's going to lose this housing unless she pays the damage that your daughter caused. That doesn't seem reasonable for her to lose her housing, does it?
No, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
The truth is that you don't host a party and you don't watch the children that are on your property.
They're teenagers. They're old enough to be outside alone.
All of those children were in the planter at some point, but it's fine.
There were no other children in the planter.
I would think that there should have been something for like flood, fire, or earthquake damage in place, so I don't know.
But she should take responsibility for her daughter. That's not my responsibility.
Relatively simple. You know, I think that there is an age, Sarah, where even under these circumstances, a child can be out unsupervised. Mm-hmm. Certainly, the defendant's defense in her answer said that her daughter was out unsupervised because she left the party for something for a short period of time. Well, there's no issue that a 14-year-old
Doesn't need to be constantly supervised.
You usually use a 14-year-old to supervise other young children.
I do think it was an accident. I think that she knew she probably wasn't supposed to be in the planter, but once we saw the video, it was playful. They were playing a ball from up high, down low. I understood the situation after we saw it. You also understood that the stomping full force as a 14-year-old could do some real damage, especially inside a planter that's supposed to be a delicate, untouched area. So I understood. I think the defendants were in a tough position. They knew it was their fault. I appreciated that they took responsibility for it.
The daughter did. The daughter did. I'm not so sure about the mother.
I think the mother saw the big price tag attached to the responsibility and maybe tried to backtrack a little. But yeah, I mean, accidents happen, but there are big consequences for...
She learned that lesson, this young woman today.
I hope.
Curtis Brown and Heather Palin are suing Heather's ex-husband, Scott Manis, for impound fees, harassment, and defamation.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2142, Brown, Palin versus Mannings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Palin, this is your former husband.
That is correct, Your Honor.
How long were you married?
18 years.
And this is your daughter?
Correct.
Is this your only child?
With Mr. Manis, it is.
Yes.
Yes.
You have other children?
One other, yes.
How old?
32.
When did you and Mr. Manis separate?
I moved out of the family home in March of 2018.
And this is your boyfriend?
Correct.
I'm going to, in broad strokes, at least try to reconcile both the complaint and the answer in this case. I assume there was a time when your daughter, whose first name is? Trisha was living with you after the separation.
We had a mutual divorce decree of 50-50.
And was that honored?
Until September 4th of 2020, Mr. Manis had brought Trisha back to my home. And while we were out of the home, he had her pack her belongings.
No, okay. Let's stop there. Trisha, how old are you?
I'm 19, Your Honor.
Okay. And right subsequent to the separation and the divorce, until September of 2020, you shared custody.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And then Trisha decided she would prefer to live with her father.
Correct.
For whatever reason. I don't have to go into it, because this doesn't really have to do with who she chose to live with or where she was living. It has to do with a car. Okay. So while she was living with Mr. Manis purchased a car.
Yes, ma'am.
For her use.
Correct.
In what month did you purchase a car for her use? Month and year?
Oh, boy. I believe that was probably February of 2019, I believe. 18 or 19.
Well, let's figure it out.
It was about 6 months prior to the case with her. So September 4th, we had the car. It would have been probably June or July of the same year.
So you bought her a car a couple of months before she decided to come and live with you?
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
She had just obtained her driver's license.
That's okay. I'm just trying to get a timetable. Right before she decided to come to live with you and not have 50-50 custody anymore, you purchased a car for her.
Correct.
And she drove that car in June or July, August?
Correct.
At your house?
At both houses.
She was allowed to go to take the car to their house?
Correct.
When she saw her mother?
Yes.
And then bring it back?
Correct.
There was a time when you took the car away from her. When was that?
Probably mid-August.
Mid-August of 2020?
Correct. Well, the threat was to take the car away because her grades were slipping. I didn't actually take the car away.
When did you take it away?
I actually never did take it away. Her mother and her mother's boyfriend decided to purchase her another car to eliminate my threat of taking away the car.
Well, I don't know if that's because, but they decided to
Correct.
Purchase another car. And what did you do with the car that you had gotten for your daughter?
I sold that.
When did you sell it?
Probably a month or so after she got the other car.
And the threat was made to your daughter because you were concerned about how she was doing in school or how she was doing socially. What were the reasons?
Well, her grades were slipping. Okay. So I wanted her to concentrate more on her grades rather than...
Grades were slipping?
Correct, at school.
Did she give you any reason for that?
She was under a lot of pressure with the divorce.
So you purchased a car, Mr. Brown and Ms. Palin, with the understanding, according to your complaint, that the car would remain in your name. There would be payments made on the car, and once the car was paid, it would transfer to Tricia. Well, one thing led to another. Things sort of went south. And according to what I've read in these papers, you got sort of annoyed And the car that you had purchased was in the physical custody of Tricia, who was living with her father. And Mr. Manis caused the car to be towed and impounded, which caused you substantial expense to get the car out of impound. And he did that maliciously.
Correct.
And you want him to pay those expenses because you did, in fact, get the car out of impound, subsequently sold it. How much were the impound fees?
$1,565.22, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Manis, in defense of that, acknowledges that he towed the car, your car. He towed the car, which was at your house?
Your Honor, I had
Where was the car?
the car at the time was at my house.
That's what I'm asking you. The car was at your house. You had it towed to impound. And you had it towed on what date, sir?
The car was impounded on September 4th.
Of what year?
2020, I believe.
And your defense for doing that?
Your Honor, he requested...
Just a second. Your defense for doing that is that you were merely following Mr. Brown's instructions.
And the police officers.
You were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Correct.
Unless you have a police officer here.
I have several police reports, Your Honor.
About what?
This isn't just about the car. There's several years of harassment.
No, I'm dealing with the car.
I understand.
Right now, I'm dealing with the car.
So I have the several officers that came instructed us to get the car removed from the property.
Well, that may be, sir. You can have the car removed from the property and ask the police to have it deposited in front of their house.
I understand.
Yeah, you chose not to do that.
May I show you his request to have the car towed? He offered a reward for the car to be towed.
Just a second. I want you to tell me where I'm wrong so far. See, what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Captain. You can't have her, and I'm taking her home.
It's every guy's worst nightmare getting accused like that.
Can you guess what every woman's worst nightmare is?
Well, at least I won't die alone.
Curtis Brown and Heather Palin claim Heather's ex-husband, Scott Manis, owes for impound fees. Scott is countersuing Heather for filing a false CPS report.
Okay. You had the car towed to an impound. You did not call him or your ex-wife the day that you had the car towed to impound. It was some period of time later, if the fees for impound were $1,500. Your excuse for that is you were merely following his request. His request. That's what you wrote in your answer. Is that wrong?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so now we know that you didn't notify them when you had the car towed.
Your Honor.
Because you could have had the car towed to the local police precinct and called them and said, come pick up the car. It can't be in front of my house anymore.
Your Honor,
he was actually at my house that night.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The police, when they came to our house, the car was present. They acknowledged the presence of the car.
You can't tell me what the police did, sir.
I have the reports, Your Honor.
I'd like to see, I will see the report. What I'm asking you is, there are two things. If you wanted the car out of your custody and you wanted to quietly and stop the friction, send it back to the people who purchased it, you could have done that. You chose not to do that.
Your Honor, the reason I chose not to do that is because of I have several false allegations from CPS, the police. I did not choose to have any contact.
You don't have to have any contact with them, sir.
In order to...
You don't have to have any contact with them. Just like you paid a tow truck company to take the car to impound, you pay the tow truck company. You live in a private house or an apartment.
Private house.
You have the tow truck company drop the car off in front of their house. Now, after you had the car towed to an impound company, did you contact them in any way?
No, I didn't.
No.
I was instructed.
Did you
not
ask
to
the
by
police to contact them and tell them?
The police knew, yes.
I didn't ask you what the police knew. You can't tell me what the police knew. So you had the car towed on September the 4th. And when were you notified the car was in impound?
I received certified letter on September 26th, which was a Friday. It said to contact them Monday through Friday between 8 and 4.
Just a second. You received that on September 26th.
Yes.
Is that the first notice that you had that the car was impounded?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the
Okay. So now the onus is upon you, Mr. Manis. I want you to prove your defense to me, and your defense was you were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. That's all I want to see.
Here you go, Your Honor.
So this says $100 reward to anyone that impounds my car. Call a tow truck and tell them to contact me.
Yes, Your Honor.
You know this number.
Yes.
Yes. Well, did you do that?
The tow company sent them a letter on 9/10 of 2020, and I have the proof of that also, Your Honor.
Yeah, I would like to see what you're looking at. That's not on September 4th.
No.
That's not on September 4th.
9/10, they sent that out,
Okay.
the notice.
Let's see. Well, this says that attempts were made on 9/21, 9/26, and 10/5. That's what it looks like, attempts made.
That's when they had attempted to deliver, but they did not pick it up.
So they had no notice.
They had notice.
No,
did
they
not
had
pick
no
it up on
notice.
They
They
didn't pick
had
it up.
no notice.
If they would have gone to their post office box, they would have had notice.
If I had taller parents, I would have been 5'7". They had no notice. Okay, $1,565. That's what you owe them. It was a malicious act.
Your Honor, this isn't just about the car.
This is all.
Horrendous
Listen to me.
False
This is all.
allegations through CPS. If you would please.
Let me. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
And your counterclaim I'm going to hear. Right now, you owe Mr. Brown $1,565 because what you did was malicious. And I don't understand something. You have one child together. I assume that you don't want to make her miserable. That when she was born, you said, oh, let's see what we can do over her lifetime to make her as unhappy as possible. Let's see what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre. So right now, because you did a malicious thing by having their car towed and not giving them a heads up that you had the car towed to a place that was going to cost them money, you owe them $1,565. Now I'm going to hear your claim that they made false charges to CPS about you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, can I say something?
About what?
The car.
Before you say anything, did I say anything that was inaccurate? Did your father have the car towed? The answer is he's acknowledged that. He had the car towed and put it in a place where neither your mother or her boyfriend knew where it was, resulting in their having to pay fines to get the car out. Is there anything that I said was wrong?
That is partially incorrect because I had contacted my mother in the time and asked either.
Okay, that I'll hear. Okay. You contacted your mother.
I did contact my mother previously, not only on normal messages, but also on messenger messages, including how I wanted either the title or my money back and that they could have the car before that. Once the Facebook post was...
All I want you to show me is that you notified either your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded when you notified them.
She also did ask my best friend where it was.
All I want, that's all I want. Don't tell me what you said to your best friend who's not here. All I want to do is see where you notified your mother that the car was impounded.
So there is this one about money in my account, which was about the car.
I don't want to see anything about the car. I only want to see where you notified your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded.
Okay. I don't have the text about that, but I did notify her that it was impounded.
Well, I don't know that, and it seems to me you weren't talking to your mother on a regular basis because there was a lot of acrimony. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So, Tricia, you could sit down. I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause.
The Peppadew pepper on Panera's new Green Goddess Caprese Melt. It's a small detail, but when enough of those details are melted together, they become big. New toasted baguettes. Cater your next event with Panera.
Defendant Scott Manis has accused his ex-wife, Heather Palin, of filing a false report with Child Protective Services.
Now, it was a malicious act to have the car impounded. There's no question in my mind that if they knew it was impounded, they would have gotten it out before. $1,565. Now, you want to show me what information you have with regard to filing a false CPS report?
Correct. I have the CPS reports and the police investigators report.
Okay, may I see it, please? This report, it was in September of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's been several years of these reports and just disgusting allegations.
So you filed or you made allegations to Child Protective Services?
CPS actually contacted me, Your Honor, regarding several calls that they had received for the welfare of my daughter, Tricia.
In what year?
I was contacted, I believe it was 2019, and again in 2020.
They contacted you?
Correct.
For what?
To do an interview because of a claim that was made regarding Tricia's safety.
That were made by an anonymous source?
I don't know who made them, Your Honor. In Minnesota, you can't make multiple reports by one person. I cannot call day after day to make reports.
I'm just asking you, did you at some point claim that you had reason to believe that your daughter was being in some way physically abused by her father? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, to a point.
Yeah, okay. And part of that involved a sexual abuse.
That one was not claimed by me. I did state to CPS that he does have her sleep in his bed with him.
Well, I have to tell you something.
Which is a little weird.
I have to tell you something. That doesn't seem a little weird. It seems a lot weird that your daughter acknowledged, sir.
Your Honor?
Your daughter. What I'm telling you is, it is inappropriate for a man to sleep in the same bed as his 15-year-old daughter.
Your Honor,
that's
we went
my
to a
view.
concert.
And if that's true, there may be a reasonable explanation for it. She said she was scared, whatever, but when interviewed, that's what it says in here. But I'm telling you, as a mother and a grandmother, in my view, and I'm not a professional psychiatrist or psychologist, but it is inappropriate for a teenager to sleep in the same bed with her father. Period. Maybe some countries it's appropriate, but I...
Your Honor, we went to a concert.
What?
And shared a hotel room at a...
No, that's not what your daughter said. No. That's not what your daughter said, sir.
May I finish?
Yes.
When she was going through all the stuff with the divorce and everything, she came into my room. I was asleep. She laid next to me. I'm asleep.
Listen to me. I'm not suggesting
Your Honor,
that anything inappropriate... Sir,
absolutely right.
Understand this. I'm not suggesting that any inappropriate actions happen between you and your daughter. I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause. I would say, you know what? That's not a good idea. It's sweetheart, it's especially not a good idea when parents seem to be feuding. It's grist for the mill. You may want to go and, if she's scared, say, sweetheart, I'll go and sit in a chair in your room.
Many times.
In your room.
Many times.
But please, this is inappropriate. Do you understand? It's inappropriate.
Did you read the detective's statements in there?
No, I'm not interested in the detective statement.
Obviously.
If what your daughter says is true as a result of the investigation, then there was reason for somebody to suggest to CPS to do an investigation. So listen, bottom line, I can't tell the two of you to stop feuding. I can't. You either hate each other more than you love your daughter. That's the answer. And this court can't fix that. All I can do is fix $1,565, which is what you owe them for impound fees. This case is over. Thank you.
Yeah.
This court is adjourned.
I think the judge is wrong.
I am thankful for the judge.
She didn't read all the evidence. Multiple pages weren't read.
He's very good at manipulating others
And multiple accusations.
and being the person that, oh, pity me, feel sorry for me.
False allegations to CPS.
My ex-husband decided that he would show me.
No, he's trying to get my daughter her money back or the title to her car.
He actually had the car as of August 24th. Then he brought her to the house and moved her out on September 4th. And that's when it just started going downhill.
She has a lot of hatred.
I believe he's very angry that I divorced him.
That she falls off a bridge.
And he lost the control over me that he had while we were married.
You know, Sarah, I've been doing these family cases for probably 40 plus years. And it always makes me sad that the mother, the father, even the new boyfriend, there is a window in life when you feel relatively healthy, nothing hurts you, you don't have a bad back, you don't have to worry about indigestion, you can walk around without a walker, you look pretty reasonable, and that you will take years away from that good time to create negativity around not only yourself, but the people that you love.
I think that's great advice.
I always said to people, both men and women, that, it's one journey. You can take that journey and put as much positive energy into it.
Yeah, I just felt bad for the daughter. I mean, I know she's grown now, 19, but still 19, it still hurts your feelings to hear and see that your parents hate each other more than they care and love about you.
Well, maybe that statement
will make a difference. You never know.
Make a difference, because I'm sure it's not true.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
But when it's said to you in a court in front of your child, hopefully they take some action on it then.
Well, hopefully they'll say, boing, I mean, she has a new boyfriend, and he's got his daughter who's living with him. They should be happy.
Yeah.
And they're divorced.
Close the book and move on.
Close the book.
Yeah.
Her mother and her boyfriend should get a puppy together. Well, they should not until they get married. Not until they. But do something. This is a grown young woman.
Have a healthy adult relationship with your adult child.
Right.
Yeah.
Not over a car. But teenagers do crazy things for a car. I think that some teenagers would live with Satan if they bought.
Xin chào mọi người, hôm nay thì mọi người hãy cùng mình tô màu cho bức tranh về nhân vật Minion nhé. Trước tiên là mình sẽ tô màu cho cặp kính trước. Vậy mình sẽ tô màu cho đôi giày. Là mình xin đưa ba tay nha. Là mình sẽ tô bộ đồ. Eo ơi. Kịp rồi. Ghê vãi. Rồi mình sẽ tô màu da cho Minion. Bức tranh về nhân vật Minion của mình đã tô màu xong rồi đây. Đây chính là thành quả của mình nha. Mọi người thấy đẹp không? Nếu mọi người yêu thích series này thì hãy like, share và chia sẻ thật là nhiệt tình để giúp mình có động lực ra nhiều video hơn.